The challenges facing our teens today mean that more than ever, we need to be there to support them and encourage them. The Dr. STEM Show is here to provide discussions about topics that will help promote healthy relationships, self-image, and success for teens, parents, and the community. Our young people can achieve more in life than they ever dreamed possible. The Dr. STEM Show, hosted by Dr. Stem Malatini, will foster these discussions and encourage your participation.
When I hear the word union or belonging to a union, I always think of the word support, especially for our teachers here in Salem, Mass, and teachers around the country and the world. Today, we do have the honor of having our newly elected president for the Salem Teachers Union, Ms. Beth Kontos. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, and welcome to the Dr. STEM Show. I hope that you'll get to learn more about what the union is all about, but mostly how our teachers are being supported in this community of Salem, Massachusetts. Once again, congratulations for your position.
Thank you.
But before we start, you know what? I've been wanting to have you here for the longest of time, so I can't wait for this interview.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a teacher for 11 years. Before that, I was a computer programmer for the phone company, which I liked a lot.
Yes.
But I didn't feel fed by my work. I have 2 adult daughters, Katie and Rebecca.
Yeah.
They're done with college. They're out on their own, working, being successful, paying their own bills, which is nice, right? I went to Salem State College, and I have a lot of animals. And I love my animals. And my students know that I love my animals. Yep.
Might I add that you are a teacher right now at
Yes.
Salem High School?
That's right.
Which
I
is
teach
my school.
social studies. I teach history,
Yes.
and I teach a class called Street Law, which I love, probably my favorite subject to teach. Yeah.
And guess what? It's also the favorite for most of the students that
Yeah,
have taken
it's
that
fun.
class.
And we have field trips, and it's a half-year class. It's usually juniors and seniors.
Yes.
Sometimes some freshmen are in it, but it's sometimes it's too intense for the freshmen. They're not quite ready yet.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're talking about a union. You've been elected as the president of a union.
Right.
What is the union for those that are going into teaching for the first time? What is a union, and how does the union support the teachers?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, we want to make sure that our teachers have all the resources they need, the support they need. We want to be sure they're protected and asked to teach appropriately under good conditions. And we help, really our first thing is to, our first job is to negotiate a fair contract. And that way people are paid fairly and their time is not being taken advantage of. Yes. Yeah. And it's all to benefit the students because we want our students, our teachers to stay long term so that our students have that reliability of really well-experienced teachers, well-educated teachers to stay here in Salem to benefit our kids.
So I noticed that as I was preparing for this interview yesterday, and I was reading that not only here in Salem, but around the country, the turnover rate for teachers is very, very high.
Extremely high. And it's really the worst thing that's going on in education right now. And part of it is there is this undercurrent of disrespect towards the teaching profession around the country. And you see it in newspapers, articles. I see a little bit of a trend because families have joined in to say, hey, we need to support our teachers. This is the foundation of our democracy, to have a public education available to our children. And so we are trying to turn that around now and take it back so that it is the teachers that are controlling more of, teachers and parents that are controlling what's going on in the classroom and that the students are getting what they need.
Yeah. I didn't quite get the statistics, and maybe you might be able to have that, on whether it's the first year teachers, second year, third year that have the highest turnover around that.
Well, you know, the first 3 years are the most difficult because you, as well trained as you are, there's a lot that goes on in a classroom, especially if you're very young and have not raised your own children. that can surprise you.
Yes.
And it's a difficult job. It's a very long hours, especially in the beginning. Once you know what you're doing more, there's still longer hours than what we're actually contracted to do.
Yes.
But it becomes easier once you have that toolkit behind you from experience.
Yes.
The first few years is when we lose a lot of people just because it's different than they expected.
Yeah. Now, is it the responsibility of the union or the school itself or the school district to put in programs that will be of more support for those first 3-5 years of a teacher's, getting into the schools?
It really should be the district that provides the support. A mentoring program is extremely important. Now, the union can support that,
Okay.
and certainly we do. We want that to happen. But there needs to be some kind of an incentive to have an experienced teacher spend a lot of time with a new teacher. I was very fortunate when I first started working in Salem. Yes. I was paired up with Bob Bua. Yes. Great social studies teacher, a lot of fun to be with. Yes. He's a great guy. And he showed me the ropes around Salem. Salem High School, where to get the things I needed, how to handle maybe a discipline problem with a student that I didn't know really who to go to for help. He showed me who to go to. Wow. Because there were so many people in the building, counselors, guidance counselors, social workers that can help a student that is having a problem. Because when they speak out in class in a negative way, it's not personal. There's usually something going on at home or outside of our classroom that is affecting them. And so we try to find the support those students need so that then they can be successful in the classroom. Yes. And Bob showed me where to go to get that help.
If I was that, there, those are the,
right.
Yeah, that's when we step in as counselors, as therapists, to be able to take that load off the teachers.
That's right.
Yeah, so
right.
that, we can deal with the mental health and the anger management and the self-esteem. Yeah.
And I fully believe in a process of restorative justice where if a student is having a hard time being in my classroom, they leave. But that doesn't mean they are suspended or, kicked out of school. But maybe they need a break. They need to get the counseling they need, and then we come back, we have a meeting, and they're back in the classroom. Yeah.
Now, I'm just thinking of the mentoring because then, as I said, when I hear union, I hear support and the mentoring. Is there any way, and that's just thinking, of getting grants that are for first teacher support and having somebody in the school form that kind of group and then apply for a grant from the federal government to mentor people? Because then, when I read it, I was thinking, whoa, this is, these are some good teachers that we're losing.
That, keeping our students, our teachers long term, is really going to benefit our students. And it benefits the Salem public school system. When I think of the number of teachers that have left our environment that were quality teachers, that Salem also paid for some of their education, because we do have a tuition reimbursement program. So they may get their master's degree here, which Salem pays for probably half of that. And then those teachers move to a district that reaps the benefit of their education. And we want to work on keeping our teachers here. A mentoring program is good. We do have a mentoring program now, but it could be better. It could be more extensive. But the school system does need to find some money to pay the people for all the hours, especially the long-term teacher that is spending so much time with the new teacher. They need to be compensated.
Ms. Kontos.
Yes.
It's been interesting. We're talking to Ms. Beth Kontos today, who is the newly elected president for the Salem, Massachusetts Teachers Association, which is Teachers Union.
Yes, it is.
Not association. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
As a youth motivational speaker, author, and coach, Dr. STEM understands that in a world where today's youth and parents are jaded and disappointed by institutions and people they perceive as out of touch with the reality of their lives, motivation is a dose that is much needed. It's time to excel. Dr. STEM Malatini is a refreshing change from the typical speaker. Dr. STEM understands the pressures, heartaches, temptations, hopes, and dreams of the generation that is just now coming of age. Students listen in transfixed silence as she speaks with the clarity and confidence of someone who has worked with teens, parents, and teachers for over 20 years. Her high-energy school assembly programs create a defining moment for schools and provide an experience students never forget. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmmalatini@gmail.com or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
Okay, I love breaks because during breaks, that's where we discuss, okay, are we going the right direction? And now we're going to be talking about MCAST, FCAST, TCAST. For those of you that are living in the United States, we have this testing that we call high stakes.
Yes.
Standardized testing.
Right.
Tell us about
right.
that.
Well, I'm against it.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. Yes. Teachers have been assessing students' knowledge forever. Okay? We teach the curriculum and then we make the tests. We know what we've taught. We just want to know if the students have acquired the knowledge that we've presented, yes, or that they've investigated themselves. So we want to assess whether or not they're moving along with the right progress. Yes. And if they're not, we'll reteach a subject, or we'll give them some remedial information, yes, something, okay? Yes. That, yes, makes sense. Yes. That's how it was when I went to school. That's how it has been for a very long time. Yes. Until about maybe 14 years ago, I think we started with the high stakes standardized testing, which meant that a student potentially would not get a diploma if they didn't pass it. Now, my children always did well. My children ate every day. They had a bed to sleep in. Yeah. They had parents that read to them. Yeah. We speak English, yes, in my house. Yeah. So they took a test in English, mm-hmm, and were successful. Yes. Some children come to our country in the 9th grade from a country that doesn't speak English. Mm-hmm. And yet by the time they're sophomores or juniors, they're expected to take a standardized test in English and do well. And often they don't do well, yeah, and they're labeled as failures. And then schools are labeled as failures. And it's no fault of their own. They're not ready yet. Yeah. I cannot myself be held responsible, or nor should I be responsible, for the education the student had before they came to me, mm-hmm, or they didn't have. Yeah. And we do have some students who come here. We educate everybody. And that's the way I want it. Some students come to us and have never attended school, or have had periods of years where they did not attend school. We've had students who have lived in refugee camps, and they did not attend school. They don't have education in their own language. It's even more difficult to then acquire this knowledge in English, which is not their first language. Mm-hmm. So why punish a school because we have students that we're educating that aren't ready yet to take this test? Yeah. And many of the questions in these tests are not appropriate. They're not age appropriate. They have vocabulary that a student may never have learned. I just recently took a trial on this new PARCC testing that came, yeah, right? And it's on a computer, which is fine. I'm, yeah, computer literate. I have, mm-hmm, no problem with that. Yeah. I took the 11th grade English language arts test. There were words I had never seen before. Mm-hmm. I have a master's degree in history, plus more classes in teaching education. Yeah. And there were words that I could figure out what they were because I have 20 years of education behind me. But the 11th grade student who English isn't their first language, yeah, aren't going to know all those vocabulary words. It was far beyond an 11th grade vocabulary that should be expected. That's, yeah, more at the end of college. Yeah. And so to then hold back a student's diploma stops them from, you can't get a federal loan to go to college. If you don't have a diploma, many employers don't want you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't go further.
Yeah.
Even trade schools, they need that diploma first.
You're right. Yeah.
So I don't mind assessments. We do it all the time.
Yes.
I want them to be appropriate, and I don't want them to stop you from graduating and going on and learning more things in a community college, in a state school, or in a trade.
Yeah. See, it's interesting that you say that, because I taught English as a second language for a middle school when I was doing my graduate school.
Sure.
And I was in Florida.
Yeah.
And when it came to the FCAT, which is
Right,
Florida,
right.
When it came in that English, I opened up the book. One, I had not taught anything that was in that book in my classes, I know that.
Exactly.
And I asked the other teachers, and they had not taught anything on their syllabi that was being tested in there. So regardless of whether they were English speakers or non-English speakers,
Exactly.
nobody had prepared and studied for it. So it's interesting, but then I thought maybe because then I was a new teacher in there, I didn't understand, or I had not taught it. Then I did, I said, let's take the test as teachers.
As teachers,
let's see if we can do it.
Right.
We could not
You didn't do well.
well in that test.
That's
as
right.
teachers, even seasoned teachers that were there.
That's right.
So I couldn't understand what this is testing as well.
It
So-
really, what it is testing, students who come from a higher socioeconomic background
Yeah.
that have had all their time learning in English, all their time learning in the United States, because a lot of the questions will be based on where you grow up. They're asking in a reading, there'll be questions about baseball. Well, if I'm a recent Albanian immigrant, I play soccer. I don't play baseball.
Yep.
I don't know what a home run is yet.
We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back.
How much difficulty do you have getting your employees or your customers to listen to the solutions you can offer? This may be one of the great frustrations in business. It's time to excel. Dr. STEM now offers solutions with her Soft Skills Leadership Training Program and the Women's Executive Leadership Training Program. To reserve your seat in one of her coaching sessions, purchase her books, or to book her services, email her at drstemmalattini@gmail.com. or go to her website at www.drstem.org.
Welcome back. Today we are talking about the union supporting our teachers, because guess what? Without the teachers, we will not have the successful teenagers that we deal with on a day-to-day basis and that we talk about here on the Dr. STEM show. So this is one show that is very special, I know for me, because then I want the teachers to feel supported. I want the teachers to get compensated, because then there's a lot of work that they do. They hold so many roles that a lot of us don't even get to understand and appreciate, that they are mother, father, teacher, disciplinarian, and I mean, you name it, everything. But I know one thing, as the newly elected president of the Salem Teachers Union,
Yes.
you are going to be also dealing about keeping public schools public.
Right.
What does that mean?
Yeah. It's a big topic.
Okay.
If you think about it, our schools are funded by tax dollars, whether it be state taxes, real estate taxes locally, or federal taxes. And we fully believe that all children deserve a fully funded public education, where they have teachers that are paid well that will stay long term, where they have well-educated teachers. Some places around the country, the minimum requirement is not as high as it is here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We have to have a master's degree or higher in Massachusetts within 5 years of taking a job as a teacher. So that's very important. And what we like is that all the decisions about our public schools are open to the public. We have open school committee meetings where the mayor participates, the superintendent, school committee members, and every parent is invited to go to these. There's always, at least once a month throughout the school year, a school committee meeting. And I encourage people to go to that. I will be at every one of them if they want to come and say hello.
That's good.
And in those meetings, it is decided how money is spent.
Yeah.
So I want to keep public money in the hands of the public. We have the decision to make who's on that school committee. And if we don't like the decisions they're making, they're up for re-election. You vote them in or out. It's up to you as a public. And that's what makes the direct connection between a parent and the school. Of course, a parent can always make a phone call. You call the teacher, you call the superintendent, you call the principal. If things aren't good for your child, it is your right and it is your duty to speak out. It really is. And keeping our tax money in the hands of our politicians who we elect, and we can see everything they do on how they spend it in the school, we can see where it's going. It's really hard to do something bad with our tax money if it's all out in the open.
Yes.
Our budget is public. You can ask for a Freedom of Information Act to see how money is spent. Hopefully our newspapers are putting our budgets, at least segments of our budget, in the newspaper so we can see how it's being spent. And I don't want it to go, our tax money, to go into the hands of private, they say nonprofit companies, but they're making money. Yeah, and just because something is labeled as a nonprofit, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of money that goes into the paychecks of people instead of teachers, instead of supplies, instead of buildings. That's something that's really good for the student. Okay, so that's why I believe in a public education. And the people who make the decisions are all democratically elected. You know, they are. Our mayor, our superintendent. We had a lot of input into meeting our new superintendent, Ruiz, who I like very much, and I'm happy she's with us. I like the transparency of seeing where the money is spent. And then we know that it's being spent on our children.
Yes. Wow, it is a big topic. I continue to see it, and I was wondering, okay, what does this mean, public versus private, and what this means? So this is an ongoing conversation, I'm assuming.
Oh yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, before the changes are made. Tell us a little bit about your work at Salem High School right now. I know you're a teacher. Are there any other programs that you're involved in?
Yes, I'm very excited. We've had a small program of a clothing closet for several years, and we've taken donations for prom dresses, formal attire, church attire. We have students who might have everyday clothes, but they don't have something special that they need for an occasion. And we collect, and they're all slightly used clothing. We did get a donation of all new prom dresses 2 years ago, which was wonderful. We still have some. But we're starting something new, where it's not just a small closet. We're going to have an entire classroom dedicated to new clothing, new jeans, new tops, all within dress code, and some slightly used clothes. And it's going to be set up like a boutique. And we have been fortunate to partner with the Massachusetts Coalition for the Homeless, who has this large grant to help us help our students have what they need.
Oh, good.
Because you know how it is.
Yes.
If you don't have that back-to-school new outfit, and when someone else has an entire new closet full, and you're worried about my sneakers are falling apart, or my jeans don't fit right, you know, and we don't want that to get in the way of the learning. And, you know, we have a tough winter. And when you think of how many of our students are new to our country from warm weather climates, and we tell them it's cold here, but they don't really know how cold until that first snowstorm.
That's true.
And so we will have coats, and we'll have some fleeces and hoodies and things like that. And most everything will be new, that's really the change. We want people to feel good and feel proud when they walk down the halls, and not have that get in the way of their lessons.
Yes. So for those of you that are watching and you probably have not seen what they call food banks here in the United States, they also have what they call clothing banks. It's almost like the bank, but then it's a free bank because then you get the assistance that you need. Because I know there are a lot of people that watch the show that are from foreign countries like myself that might not understand how this all works. At Salem High School here in Salem, Mass, they are opening up one of the classrooms, which will be classroom 109. You can just walk in and you tell the secretary, Miss Cynthia, who's at the door, very nice lady, I would like to go to room 109, and she'll guide you to go to that place, no questions asked, and then you're going to see someone who will help you there. They have, bags, duffel bags is what I understand, that they can put some stuff for you there, in a confidential manner. You can also have food. So as students, the student can go there, or the parent can go to the school and get clothing and food, which is awesome, I think, for you to do that. Much needed.
Yeah, the food is not completely in, but we will.
Okay.
That is our goal by this year, to have that aspect of it.
But the clothing is
The clothing will start
right now.
immediately. As a matter of fact, I think right now somebody's delivering clothing and starting to set up the room. And we have teacher volunteers, we have students doing community service that are going to be part of it, and keep it neat. When you go to the store and you try something on and then it's a mess, right? But we're going to have volunteers
Only
to help.
building 19 and a half could get away with that.
Well, it might look like that sometimes, but then we'll try to keep up with it. Yeah.
Is there a contact number that they can call, or an email that they can, or just show up at Salem High right now?
Initially, it's mostly for the students, within Salem High School, and those will be the sizes we'll have.
Okay.
But we are working with our social workers to see if we can get this into the elementary and to the middle school, because obviously the need is more than just at the high school.
Okay.
Right. But
So
where I'm
Salem
based at the
School
high
right now.
school, that's where I'm starting it. And our principal, David Angeramo, gave me this room to use. I also have my own classroom,
nice,
but it's adjacent. And it's nice to have this space.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
So, okay, you got it. It's starting off with the Salem High School students first, and then as it expands, we'll get you back here, and then we'll announce it that now it's open to the community and to other schools.
That's right.
But
that's our goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
I think so.
One of the things that I read when I was reading the newspaper article that they nicely wrote about your new appointment was you were talking about respect for teachers. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Just like somebody respects a parent, you expect respect for your parent. Yes. Sometimes as a child, we don't always know why our parents tell us to do the things they do. And then once we're 25 years old, we realize how smart they were, right? So sometimes students don't fully respect or understand what a teacher is doing. Yes. Just like parenting. But what we want to do is make sure that our newspaper articles are positive, so our students see, wow, the world respects my teachers. Yes. I should respect my teacher too. Yes. And we want our parents involved. We want to engage in mutual respect. We want them to come to our open houses. We want them to email us. We promise we will return those emails and phone calls. And we want this mutual respect, because we're all in this community concerned about our children.
Yes.
And we want them to become wonderful, participating adults.
Yes.
And it's all of us that are going to do that.
Yes.
So respect is number one. Yeah. Because when we think of how much time a teacher puts into their profession, education, but then also blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of tears.
Yes. Yes.
We take it to heart what our students go through.
Yeah.
And one way to help a teacher stay long-term is for them to feel respected by the administration, by the superintendent, by our community, by our newspaper, and our children.
Wow. You know what? I hate to do this, but this has been a great interview, and thank you for allowing me to, have this conversation with you. For the parents that are out there that have never gone to Salem High School, and you have a child who attends Salem High School, every teacher that's there is like Miss Kontos. You see how
we all love her.
I mean, personable, approachable. So be certain that when you email or call for the teachers, this is the face that you'll be
Right.
talking to when you
Right.
call for
Yeah.
Beth Kontos and the other teachers as well. So it's been great having you.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to having you back. We can talk
Anytime.
more about other topics.
Sure, I'd love to.
And thank you for watching the Dr. Stem Show.